Hello again, and welcome to another edition of Chocolate Chat, brought to you by the Persistent Rumor. My name is Chocolate Yoda, spelled Yodddah, because film studios are litigious. And today I have a very, very challenging conversation. It's really a challenging question. And it's based on the premise that America is an extremely violent society. And I say that not for the obvious reasons of the wars that we're in, the police brutality that we see, man's inhumanity to man, that kind of stuff. I mean, those are serious, very, very serious issues. But what I'm talking about is the casual, everyday violence that's part of American society. We even have violence as entertainment. Boxing, MMA, all these things we take in. On television, violence is depicted constantly. In films, violence is depicted constantly. Why is that? Because we say that we abhor violence. We say that violence is not good. We say that peace is the thing that we want. Yet we're surrounded by violence. We choose to engage in the observance of violence or the consumption of violence rather voluntarily. Why would we have violence as part of our entertainment? Why would sports be so violent and unnecessarily so? Why do sports that have the sole focus of being violent be so popular and in such high demand if we were not a violent society? And I want to drill down even more and talk about an aspect of society that I've experienced myself in indirect and indirect ways. Directly and indirectly. That's a better way to say that. So here's my question, and it's directed toward women. And only the most courageous are going to engage me in this conversation, so to speak. Even though you can't talk to me directly, I'd love you to leave comments. And just before you do, I would ask that you don't go with your knee-jerk reaction if you have one. And I'd like you to really think about this. And I'm not speaking to all women. I'm speaking to women who have been in violent relationships. And I'll give you a little background on this. I was in relationships with several women who had been beaten by either one previous boyfriend or several previous boyfriends. And here's what I learned. And now this is my own perspective. I never checked with them to see if I was right, but I saw this 5 times. In the 5 relationships that I was in that involved a woman that had been beaten by a previous boyfriend, or in one case, it was her adoptive father that beat her. Here's what I experienced. They all fell in love with me because I treated them very well. That's what I do. I don't think I deserve a pat on the back for that. That's standard operating procedure. So what I found very interesting in all cases was that even though they said they loved me, they didn't seem to fully trust that I loved them. And what I found is that as time went on, they all would start upping the ante on provocation. They all got more aggressive toward me. And what it seemed like is that they were provoking me to test whether it was true that I was not going to hit them. So there was obviously a law of diminishing returns working here because, I don't think they would have ever stopped because they had to know. They didn't trust that I loved them because the main difference between when I said I love you and their previous relationships said that they love them was that I didn't have a punch to their face as part of that, right? And I know I'm speaking very crudely, but this is what I observed over several years and over several different relationships of this nature. So when we see this stuff talked about on television, Oprah was big on this conversation, but a lot of the daytime talk shows devote themselves to this topic of battered women, and rightfully so. I think it's an important topic for Americans to discuss. But those shows tend to come off as very judgmental, especially Oprah, always telling women what they should be ashamed of, how they should feel, how they're wrong, how could you, all that other stuff. But here's what I believe. I believe that a lot of human behavior is dictated by the smallest, most reptilian, most ancient part of our brain that houses all of those DNA instructions revolving around survival. And if we look at other mammal species, easy for me to say, when we look at other mammal species, we see that violence is very often the way that the male proves that he is suitable for the female. And I believe that there's a little bit of residual DNA in humans that gives that same instruction. So what does that all mean? I think that perhaps part of the conversation that has not been had, I've never seen anyone ask this question. Of course, I haven't seen everything produced, but in my experience, since the 80s and this started being prominent on television, I have not heard anybody ask the question that I'm going to ask. And that is, if you were attracted to a man who was violent, was there an aspect of that attraction that was based in the fact that he was violent? Honestly, I know, no way, that's horrible, that's not woke, that's not, feminist, all that other stuff. I get it. But this is something that keeps happening, all right? We keep saying it's not supposed to happen. We keep saying it's wrong. And maybe both of those things are true, but I want to know. I want women to leave comments and just be honest. Was there an aspect of his violence that was part of the thing that attracted you? All right, so I'm going to leave you with that question. I know it's a rough one, and I hope that I've not treated this lightly, because I really want to know. I think it's an important conversation to have, because if you don't really understand yourself, how can you make any changes? You've got to understand what's going on with you before you even have an opportunity to address the things that happen within you. So that's my question. Please leave comments. And hey, stay safe, and I'll talk to you soon.